Welcome to AI Ascent, where we tackle the peaks and valleys of artificial intelligence. I'm Dr. Jonathan Luckett, and today we're diving into the powerful, controversial intersection of AI and surveillance. Imagine this, it's 2025. Every move you make, GPS, financial, facial recognition, transactions, is instantly analyzed, beating a centralized AI system that predicts your behavior and assesses your risk. This isn't sci-fi. It's our reality, and companies like Palantir are at its very core. Today, we're dissecting the ultimate double-edged sword. On one side, unprecedented power to enhance public safety. On the other, the chilling emergence of a digital panopticon where algorithms replace human judgment, blurring the line between protection and oppression. These aren't just technical debates, they're fundamental questions about the society we want. What happens to due process when machines decide human rights? Are we trading freedom for control, building our own digital prison? Government agencies are already collaborating to consolidate our data. The tech exists. The partnerships are forming. Are we ready for the implications? Modern AI surveillance isn't just cameras. It's systems predicting your future, flagging you as a threat based on algorithms few understand. Palantir's Gotham, for example, weaves disparate data into comprehensive profiles. They call it, quote, augmenting human decision-making, unquote. Critics call it replacing human judgment. This technology isn't inherently evil. It can save lives and solve crimes. The challenge is responsible use. The question isn't if AI surveillance will advance. Of course it will. It's whether we develop the ethical frameworks and oversight to prevent it from fundamentally altering the relationship between citizens and government. Consider, in an age where your digital exhaust can be weaponized, what does privacy mean? When algorithms predict crimes, are we moving toward justice or control? When tools designed to protect us become indistinguishable from tools of oppression, how do we maintain balance? These questions should keep us all awake. Our decisions today about AI surveillance will shape our children's world. Buckle up. The future is watching. Who's watching the watchers? Let's ascend.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging headfirst into the complex, powerful, and often controversial world of Palantir technology.
Right.
Think data, think governments, and think capabilities that really spark intense debate.
Yeah, Palantir isn't just, another tech company. They specialize in integrating these vast, disparate data sets, the kind that are normally just stuck in silos, totally unusable together. And they turn them into actionable intelligence.
Actionable intelligence.
It's a capability with, immense potential, but also some pretty significant implications.
Exactly. And that's the core tension, isn't it? That's what we're going to explore today. We've got a stack of sources here, reports, articles, company docs.
Right.
That lay out what Palantir actually does, how its tech is being used, especially by governments, and the crucial questions it raises, about privacy, civil liberties, oversight.
Our mission really is to cut through the noise, unpack these sources, and help you quickly get informed on this incredibly complex subject.
Yeah.
Get ready for some surprising facts, I think, and some crucial context. It's powerful stuff, but, it comes with major caveats.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
So to understand Palantir, you really have to start with their core technology. The company was co-founded back in 2004 by Peter Thiel.
Right, Thiel.
And from day one, their focus has been data fusion. Their value proposition sounds simple, but it's incredibly difficult to actually do. Take massive amounts of data from wildly different sources and make them work together to find hidden patterns and generate insights.
Right, because governments, big organizations, they're just drowning in data, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it's all fragmented spreadsheets here, databases there, sensor feeds. They can't see the whole picture.
Precisely. And the Palantir platform is designed to solve exactly that. It has a few key components. First, there's Foundry.
Foundry, okay.
That's their data operations backbone. Think of it like the engine that pulls in all that diverse data, cleans it up, integrates it, makes it ready for analysis.
So Foundry gets the messy data usable.
Yeah.
Then there's Apollo. What's that?
Apollo is kind of the mission control for their software deployment. It's designed to manage their systems in these extremely diverse, very secure environments.
Like government networks.
Exactly, like networks meeting really stringent security levels, FedRAMP, IL5, IL6. These are basically the highest levels required for handling sensitive national security data.
Okay, so Apollo makes sure the system works securely, reliably, wherever the client needs it, even in highly classified places. And there's a newer piece involving AI.
That's Palantir AIP, their artificial intelligence platform. This is where they integrate generative AI capabilities directly into operational workflows.
Right.
The goal is AI-driven decision-making, essentially in real time.
And they talk about an AI mesh. What's that concept mean?
Yeah, the AI mesh, it basically describes how this whole integrated architecture delivers AI applications across a whole spectrum of needs. So from sophisticated web apps using large language models, all the way down to AI running locally on devices right at the edge of a network.
Got it.
The key takeaway here, I think, is that the entire system, from pulling in data to deploying AI, it's purpose-built for these highly sensitive, regulated environments.
Which explains why it's so attractive to government clients.
Exactly.
That foundation makes sense.
Yeah.
So where does this powerful technology actually show up in the real world, particularly for governments and defense?
Okay, so this leads us straight to Palantir Gotham.
Gotham, right.
It's their flagship platform, tailored specifically for government, defense, and intelligence communities. Its power really lies in handling these enormous, heterogeneous data sets.
Heterogeneous meaning?
Just different types. Everything from satellite imagery, signals intelligence, to social media feeds, financial records, you name it.
And their client list is pretty heavy-hitting.
Yeah.
U.S. Department of Defense, FBI, lots of international defense agencies, too.
Yeah, major players.
So how do Gotham translate all that data power into, operational value for them? What does it do?
Well, a classic application is intelligence analysis. Imagine investigators trying to understand a complex network, maybe tracking individuals suspected of being part of a criminal group.
Okay.
Gotham can pull data from bank records, phone logs, social media posts, travel manifests, all these disparate sources that would be just impossible to analyze manually, especially in bulk. It then uses sophisticated graph analysis and other tools to map relationships, identify associates, find patterns that reveal hidden connections or activities.
So it's about seeing connections that a person would just miss in that flood of information.
Exactly. The sources describe how U.S. Special Operations Command, USOCOM, has used Gotham for precisely this, identifying actionable patterns from vast amounts of intelligence data to support battlefield decisions.
And is this analysis static, like looking back at old data? Or can it handle things happening right now?
That's a really critical capability. The systems are designed to process continuous streams of data.
Like what?
From sources like facial recognition networks, automatic license plate readers, LPRs, cell phone location data, social media feeds.
Wow, boy.
They can cross-reference this incoming information in real time to update risk assessments and identify potential threats almost instantaneously.
Now, beyond traditional defense and intelligence, we've seen Palantir's role expand significantly, particularly in immigration enforcement.
Yes, this is an area the sources really highlight, and it brings the potential applications of this technology sharply into focus. It's also sparked considerable debate. Palantir has a deepening partnership with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE.
And there's a specific contract mentioned recently.
Yes, a notable one. In April 2025, ICE awarded Palantir a $30 million contract for something called the Immigration Lifecycle Operating System, Immigration OS.
Immigration OS, the stated goal
is to provide near real-time visibility into migration patterns and support deportation operations.
Near real-time visibility into migration and deportations. That sounds incredibly comprehensive. What specific capabilities does this system actually give ICE, according to the sources?
Well, the sources detail capabilities to track things like self-deportations, monitor visa overstays, and also specifically target transnational criminal organizations.
Like MS-13.
Exactly, MS-13. Tren de Aragua groups known for trafficking and violence.
And how did ICE justify picking Palantir for such a critical system, did the sources say?
Their contract documents reportedly claim that Palantir's, and this is a quote, deep institutional knowledge of ICE operations And their existing data relationships with numerous federal agencies made them the only contractor capable of delivering the system within the required timeline.
The only viable contractor. That suggests they're really deeply embedded within ICE's operations already.
It does seem that way.
And the name itself, Immigration Lifecycle Operating System, implies a really broad scope, doesn't it?
It really does. It suggests a systematic approach to tracking individuals throughout their entire interaction with the U.S. immigration system.
Which raises questions.
Yeah, potentially raising questions about the scope extending beyond just specific targeted operations to affect broader immigrant communities and maybe even, U.S. citizens whose data happens to intersect with these systems.
This kind of extensive capability, especially integrating all that diverse data and AI,
Yeah.
it brings us to the technical details under the hood, particularly around predictive analytics.
Right. As we touched on with AIP, the goal is integrating generative AI for real-time AI-driven decision-making in these operational contexts.
And the whole idea of predictive policing has come up in relation to Palantir's capabilities, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. The CEO, Alex Karp, has publicly acknowledged the technical ability of the company to build sophisticated predictive policing tools.
Really?
Yeah, he stated that they could technically, quote, stop crime before the person commits it by analyzing behavioral patterns.
So he's saying they have the capability to do that, but they choose not to develop products specifically for that purpose.
That's what he stated, yes. He said they wouldn't pursue that product path for ethical reasons, though he did add they could do it very well and would be an ideal contractor if someone did want that built.
But even if it's not explicitly labeled predictive policing, are similar capabilities being used by law enforcement clients in practice? Does it blur the lines?
Well, the sources point to applications that critics argue function very similarly. The Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, for example.
Okay.
They've reportedly used Palantir software for over a decade in programs that analyze data to target specific individuals in areas identified as having elevated crime risks.
Which critics say blurs the line.
Yeah, blurring the line between pure analysis and sort of algorithmic enforcement based on probability.
That's a really crucial distinction to think about. And underlying all of this is their data integration power, pulling in data from, well, seemingly everywhere.
This is maybe the most powerful technical capability, and it's definitely the one that generates the most significant concerns. Their platform enables what critics often describe as a digital dragnet.
A digital dragnet.
Meaning it can simultaneously process information from facial recognition feeds, automatic license plate readers, financial records, social media posts, cell phone location data.
Pulling all those different types of data together at the same time, that seems unprecedented.
It is, pretty much. And the goal is to create these incredibly detailed, comprehensive profiles of individuals and their activities by analyzing all this information together.
And the tools they use.
Their analytical tools include things like behavioral pattern recognition and sophisticated social network analysis, mapping relationships, predicting potential activities.
Which, okay, is undeniably valuable if you're tracking down terrorists or dismantling organized crime rings.
Absolutely. Understanding complex networks, predicting group behavior, that's incredibly useful in counterterrorism and organized crime investigations, no question. But the concern raised by critics is that this exact same capability can be used for comprehensive surveillance of perfectly lawful activities and personal associations, fundamentally challenging traditional notions of privacy and freedom of movement.
And this potential for comprehensive surveillance brings us squarely to the big controversies surrounding Palantir. The civil liberties questions, the oversight issues.
This is where that tension we talked about up front becomes really apparent. Critics argue that combining AI-enhanced analysis with this level of data fusion fundamentally changes the relationship between citizens and the government.
How so?
Potentially creating what some describe as a kind of digital prison where privacy is just severely diminished.
Because the system allows for continuous monitoring, not just targeted searches.
Right. It provides government agencies with the capability for continuous, pervasive monitoring of individuals, potentially without the traditional legal safeguards we associate with, say, physical surveillance.
And the constitutional implications. That's a major part of this debate.
A key concern highlighted in the sources relates directly to the Fourth Amendment. Protection against unreasonable searches. Traditional search warrants require probable cause tied to a specific search or action. Critics argue Palantir's capabilities enable dragnet surveillance, continuously monitoring whole populations, and then applying algorithms to identify persons of interest.
Which flips the script.
They contend it effectively reverses the constitutional presumption of privacy. Instead of surveillance being targeted based on individualized suspicion, everyone is potentially subject to monitoring and algorithmic analysis first.
And the role of the algorithms themselves that raises due process issues.
Yes. When AI systems assign threat scores or risk assessments based on opaque, black box algorithms, these scores can influence law enforcement decisions without traditional judicial review or a clear process for challenge. Critics argue this shifts the paradigm.
Where algorithms replace judgment.
Essentially, where probability scores from an algorithm start to substitute for traditional probable cause, and these opaque data pipelines replace established due process protections.
Now, we also heard about criticism coming not just from outside observers, but from within the company itself.
Yeah, this is particularly significant, I think, given Palantir's typically secretive nature. The sources reported that 13 former Palantir employees,
13?
yes, including software engineers, managers, even someone from their privacy and civil liberties team, publicly spoke out. They condemned the company's extending work with the Trump administration's immigration enforcement.
Wow. What were their core concerns, based on what they said?
They reportedly argued that the company was abandoning ethical principles it had previously claimed to uphold.
Such as?
Specifically, commitments to protecting vulnerable populations and developing technology responsibly. They actually referenced the company's original code of conduct, suggesting these principles were being violated by the ICE work.
It's pretty striking that former employees, especially someone from the privacy team, felt they had to go public.
It really is. It suggests that for at least some people inside the company, the direction of Palantir's work raised significant ethical red flags, concerns they felt couldn't be addressed internally and warranted public attention, despite the potential risks to themselves.
And the larger concern this points to, for many critics, is the potential for a much wider surveillance state.
That's the most far-reaching worry, definitely. The deep integration of Palantir's capabilities into core government operations raises alarms about creating a system that's just incompatible with democratic governance.
Hence the strong language.
Yeah, critics have used terms like digital dictatorship or panopticon presidency, where citizens' activities are potentially subject to constant monitoring and algorithmic judgment.
Because the real-time nature allows for continuous population monitoring, not just specific, targeted investigations after the fact.
Exactly. And there's also the concern about the potential for these comprehensive data collection capabilities to be misused for political purposes, maybe monitoring political activities, social movements, or even journalism, simply because the data is there and accessible.
Which is maybe compounded by challenges around privacy itself and transparency, accountability.
Right. While Palantir states they have strong access controls, limiting who sees what data. Some investigations cited in the sources have suggested potential gaps between those policies and how they're actually implemented, raising concerns about potential unauthorized access to sensitive information.
And just the act of pulling all that data together from different places, that seems to create an inherent privacy risk on its own.
It does. By its very design, the platform combines data collected for different purposes under different authorities. Aggregating all that information can create these incredibly detailed profiles that reveal far more about an individual than any single piece of data was ever intended to.
What about their international work? Does that add another layer of complexity?
It definitely adds another layer. Working with governments in multiple countries means data might be transferred across borders.
Right.
Borders with varying privacy laws, different oversight standards. It raises further questions about how personal information is protected when it moves between jurisdictions.
And you mentioned the transparency issue earlier, especially with the algorithms making decisions.
This is really critical for democratic accountability. If government agencies using Palantir don't fully understand how proprietary algorithms arrive at decisions, like how a risk score is generated, for instance,
Then what?
then it becomes incredibly difficult to identify and challenge potential biases, errors, or inappropriate uses. This opacity, this lack of transparency, really undermines accountability when these algorithmic decisions influence law enforcement actions or government policy.
Okay, so we've delved deep into the controversies and the risks, which are clearly significant. But it's essential, based on the sources, to also look at the other side, the operational benefits, and the legitimate uses of this technology.
Absolutely. It's crucial to see both sides of the coin here. Palantir's technologies have been instrumental in achieving legitimate objectives, particularly in areas like counterterrorism and national security.
Okay, how have they been applied positively in those areas? What do the sources say?
Well, their core ability to integrate intelligence and identify patterns is undeniably valuable in counterterrorism.
Mhm.
It can help detect threats, disrupt networks, identify sleeper cells, track individuals involved in terrorist activities, and the real-time analysis capabilities genuinely enhance the speed and accuracy of threat assessment, which is vital for protecting things like public events, critical infrastructure, or government facilities.
And it's not just terrorism related, right? Other serious crimes.
Correct. The network analysis capabilities have proven effective in dismantling serious criminal organizations, groups involved in human trafficking, drug smuggling, by mapping those complex relationships and tracking illicit activities across different data sources.
Are there applications outside of security and defense that show the potential upside? Or it's less controversial, maybe?
Yes, definitely. Disaster response and emergency management are classic examples where their data integration capabilities can be genuinely beneficial.
Like coordinating efforts during a hurricane or an earthquake, something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In a crisis, being able to rapidly pull together and analyze real-time information from multiple agencies, first responders, hospitals, transportation, utility companies.
Right. Getting everyone on the same page.
Yeah, it helps immensely with coordinating resource allocation, tracking populations during evacuations or relief efforts, and just ensuring a more effective, coordinated response across different jurisdictions.
And public health applications. Could it be used there?
The same data integration power can be applied positively there, too, during disease outbreaks, for instance.
Like a pandemic.
Potentially, yeah. These systems could help public health officials track the spread, identify high-risk populations, coordinate public health programs like vaccination or treatment distribution. These examples demonstrate how the technology can provide significant benefits when it's directed towards clear, legitimate public good objectives.
So pulling all this together then, the sources really paint a clear picture of a double-edged sword.
That's exactly the core tension we see throughout the sources. Palantir's platforms offer genuine, powerful operational benefits for critical functions. Counterterrorism, dismantling criminal networks, coordinating disaster response.
Precisely because of their sophisticated data fusion and AI capabilities.
Those exact same capabilities carry serious risks.
Precisely. Risks to individual privacy, fundamental civil liberties, and potentially even the nature of democratic governance itself. The potential for comprehensive surveillance, combined with algorithms that aren't fully transparent and challenges around adequate oversight, it could fundamentally alter the relationship between citizens and the state in ways that many argue are just incompatible with a constitutional democracy.
Right.
And the concerns raised by those former employees and civil liberties advocates, they aren't just theoretical worries, are they? They point to real apprehensions based on how this stuff is actually being deployed.
They really highlight a critical challenge, that the technology's capabilities might be developing and being deployed faster than the legal and institutional safeguards we need to prevent potential abuse or unintended consequences.
So moving forward, dealing with this isn't just a technical problem to be solved with better code or something.
No, definitely not. It requires more than just technical fixes. It really demands that democratic societies develop new frameworks, new ways of thinking about oversight, transparency, and accountability to govern the use of these incredibly powerful tools effectively.
In this conversation, it isn't just about one company like Palantir, is it? It's really about the immense capabilities that advanced data analysis and AI now afford governments. And crucially, how we as a society collectively choose to govern their use. How do we harness this power for public good without inadvertently creating tools that enable mass surveillance or undermine fundamental rights?
It's a vital balancing act for the digital age. Absolutely.
So here's an important question for you, the listener, to consider as you process all of this. Given the potential benefits we've discussed, things like national security, disaster response, alongside the very real risks to privacy and civil liberties, what level of transparency and oversight do you believe is necessary for powerful data analysis tools used by governments in a democratic society? Where do you draw that line?
Yeah, thinking about that comprehensive data fusion, the real-time analysis, the concerns raised, how do you ensure that kind of power is wielded responsibly? It's a tough one.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. There's always more to explore.
Today, we're dissecting the ultimate double-edged sword. On one side, unprecedented power to enhance public safety. On the other, the chilling emergence of a digital panopticon where algorithms replace human judgment, blurring the line between protection and oppression. We've explored how tools like Palantir's platforms promise safety, but also raise deep questions about power, privacy, and accountability. The technology is advancing, but our values must advance with it. Transparency isn't optional. Accountability must remain human, and privacy is not a luxury. It's the foundation of dignity and democracy. Above all, we must reject the false choice between security and freedom. The challenge isn't whether AI will shape our world. It already is. The real question is, will we shape it back? So as you move through your day, ask yourself, who's watching? Who decides? And what role will I play in shaping this future? The conversation doesn't end here. In fact, it's just the beginning. This has been AI Ascent with Dr. Jonathan Luckett. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, in a world where everything is visible, the most radical act may be simply thinking for yourself.